Hey friends, and welcome to episode 0 of The Ground Up. We did it. We finally made it. We are finally here on a podcast format here on the channel. I've been talking about doing a podcast for a very, very long time now, and it wasn't until the last, I would say, 4, 5, 6 months have I been told by several people in my circle, around my friends, around my professional colleagues, that I should start some sort of long form podcast here on YouTube and Spotify, which is where The Ground Up is going to live. And for a while, I kind of had some internal dialogue as to what that podcast would look like. First of all, I don't even love the word podcast by itself. I think that denotes a sense of like interview style conversation where I want to just simply have conversations with people I already know in different industries, but people I don't yet know. People that are creators, founders, doers, other artists, all of these people. I want to have really fun, light, and hopefully introspective and very deep conversations around a whole bunch of things around life. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, on my computer here in front of me, I wrote a more formal description of what the podcast is going to be about. I'm going to read that out just to give you a very salesy pitch of what this will be, but then I'm going to talk about more on what it actually will feel like. The Ground Up is a weekly podcast where creativity meets real life. Hosted by myself, Josh Kobayashi, this show dives deep into the unfiltered conversations with creators, entrepreneurs, artists, and doers who are building their dreams one step at a time. From candid talks about career highs and lows to exploring personal growth, spirituality, and the messy, beautiful, in-between moments of life, every episode is packed with insights, inspiration, and raw honesty. I plan to do this show every single Friday, so tune in every Friday for a new episode that will challenge you, inspire you, and remind you that every success story starts from the ground up. Now, like I mentioned, I don't want this to be a strict, formal interview process. I want this to be just a light, casual conversation. In fact, I want you, the viewer, to feel like you're sitting with us or listening with us in on this conversation, and we're just having a good time, just like you would have with your best friends or your family or whoever it is in your life. You just want to have some real, truthful, honest conversations. Okay, a bit about me. My name is Josh Kobayashi. I am a 28-year-old content creator, full-time content creator, and full-time photographer from here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I've been doing content creation for about 3 to 4 years now. I've been shooting as a professional photographer for 12, 14 years. It's been a very, very long time. I actually just made a video where I rehashed some old photos from when I first picked up a camera 14 years ago, and it was absolutely diabolical. It was hilarious to see what I thought were the best pictures that I took way back in the day, but nonetheless, I've been shooting pictures for over 14 years. It's been an absolutely amazing journey. I love my career and my job. I will preface that I'll get to why I became a photographer, or why I believe I became a photographer, and that story really starts with the fact that I was born with and grew up with a cleft lip. Now, if you don't know what a cleft lip is, basically what that means is at birth, I'm going to simplify it, and this might not even be fully correct, but basically at birth, my upper lip was attached to my nose. Take that in. So at birth, the doctors had to surgically, and not only at birth, but throughout several surgeries after birth, disattach or remove it and reconnect it and reconfigure it and make it more correct again. But it is a physical disability, or a physical, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word, but anyways, it's a physical disability that I was born with at birth, and I always say that it really defined a huge part of my childhood because, yes, I was the one that was constantly bullied in school. I was the person picked last for all the sports teams. I was the person that was looked at and stared at funny in the hallways. That was me for my entire childhood until basically university, which is a whole separate story as to the turning point in my life. But that is what made me a photographer. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, it meant that I absolutely hated to be in front of the camera. At all costs, I would avoid being in any family pictures, friend group pictures, all those things. And instead, what I gravitated towards was, okay, let me be behind the camera. Let me force myself and be the first person to say, give me the camera, I'll take the picture. And I think that was my natural reaction to the fear I had being in front of the camera. And it just kind of naturally grew into me being a photographer, into me being the one handling the cameras. Now we fast forward a decade from then, obviously, and now we find myself being in front of the camera more than ever. But at the time, that was really the overarching reason why I stayed behind the lens and not in front of the lens. A few more personal notes just to get to know me a bit better. I love playing Ultimate Frisbee. I love tennis. I love pickleball. I love watches. I love F1. What else do I love? I love men's fashion as a whole. I consider myself a pretty fashion-forward guy. I love design and fashion, all those things. Cars. Brittany's at the desk beside the camera here yelling cars. I love this. I love having really deep introspective talks with every single person in my life, and luckily I know a lot of people that we're going to have on this show and have amazing conversations with, and that is really me in a nutshell. There's probably more that we'll unpack as time goes on, but that's really where we're at. Now, why did I want to start this podcast in the first place? For one, I wish I had a podcast like this when I was a young beginner in my early career stages. I wish I just had someone that was having candid conversations with people that I looked up to or people that I didn't yet know and then became someone that I looked up to through a podcast like this. Again, it'll be very lighthearted. We're going to laugh. We're going to cry. We're going to smile. We're going to get angry and frustrated. We're going to have debate. We're going to have agreements and everything in between. And it'll be a great, fantastic space, a safe space that you will also be able to partake in as well. In terms of the actual format, like I mentioned earlier, this will live on both YouTube and Spotify as a video podcast as well as an audio podcast, of course. And my goal, minus this one that's only going to be about 12, 15 minutes long, my goal is that the podcasts are anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half. I personally don't love short podcasts. They're just not my style. I don't think you can dive in deep enough. You kind of stay a bit surface level and shallow when you stay south of 30 minutes, let's say. But an hour, hour 20, hour 30 lets you to get into much more detail into whatever conversation you are having. That being said, I don't want to have another Tim Ferriss 3-hour podcast format because I found that I used to listen to those, but then I would just get tired after like the hour and a half mark and then never go back to them unless it was like the one in like 500 episodes that I absolutely loved. It was always the case that I would never finish the episodes. And so that isn't fun either. So I just want to keep it plain Jane, an hour to an hour and a half. And I mean, we'll start there and we'll go from there. And hopefully we like that format. We can always adjust as necessary. My first guest on the show is going to be a surprise, but it is someone very near and dear to my heart that has a special place in my life. And I'm so excited to have them on the podcast to talk all things that we probably already know about each other, but hey, maybe we'll find something new about each other. And I think that is pretty much it and wraps up this introduction to The Ground Up, episode 0. This one's just me. This is just me chilling, telling you guys a bit about myself, a bit about my backstory, a bit about who I am as a person on a both professional and personal side. But I'm going to be posting episode 1 in about a week's time. This one should go live on Friday, January, what's the date? Today is the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. I believe Friday, January the 11th, this one will go live. And then every Friday after that, I plan to have an episode live for you guys. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.